Okay, great. Once again, welcome to our Kusala Hour, where Krista and I will be leading guided meditations and a short introduction to the topic that we'll be leading. And the intention behind these sessions is to have just a period of the day where we can practice together and receive instruction around these qualities of the heart mind, of the chitta. The heart mind is in Pali is chitta, something that will kind of help our chitta kind of relax and open and feel nourished by these wholesome qualities. Often, with insight practice, I'll speak from my own experience. We can have the tendency to push a little bit or try it with effort and or you know our practice can start to feel maybe a little bit of dry or grating. And so I wanted to speak a little bit about that today and how MIDL utilizes insight with the kusala. So understanding what is wholesome, kusala is being the Pali word for wholesomeness, and how that connects with our practice in a way that can nourish our heart. So we find that our practice can start to feel smooth or relaxing or easier perhaps, in a way that maybe, yeah, eventually we can find joy or contentment and well-being in the practice while we're doing insight. Um, and we will talk a little bit about metta. Metta is such a great foundational um, approach to practicing wholesome states of mind, as well as the Brahma Viharas. But we'll cover these over many sessions over the next week. We'll be leading one of these sessions every day around this time. Okay, so and in these sessions, we'll give a little bit of explanation, and then we will do a guided meditation, and then back by popular demand, we will do the Metta Pali Sutta chant. So um, I'll put in the chat at the last 10 minutes of the hour. I'll put in the PDF of the Metta Sutta, and then I'll share my audio so that hopefully the audio will come clear and we can do a little bit of chanting as another way of connecting with these qualities of wholesomeness, as a way to brighten and perhaps energize our mind through chanting, and as a way to, yeah, connect with one another too, as in this community space, chanting together with our microphones off, but we'll still feel perhaps the resonance of connecting with one another through this session. That's my hope. That's the aim for today. These are our goals. So yeah, just a little bit more before we do our guided meditation about kusala and how this fits into the path. The Buddha taught a lot about letting go, right? If we had to summarize the teachings of the Dhamma into one phrase, we really could say it's all about letting go. It's about in this letting go, we're learning what to let go of and how the letting go of this specifically, as Stephen talked about earlier today, with clear comprehension, right? We're very clearly understanding with our insight of what are we holding on to that's causing pain or suffering or stress in our life. And when we let go, how that letting go or relinquishment leads to peace, well being, contentment, and all these other beautiful qualities like joy and loving kindness and compassion. And so this is where I really see these insight and compassion and the Brahma Viharas and these Kusala qualities. They all kind of meet at this point of letting go, of relinquishing. And it makes sense because when the Buddha taught, he said in a sutta, he said more or less, he said he only teaches two things. He teaches suffering and the end of suffering. And so, considering that the Buddha did suffer, and that he really knew what suffering was, and then he found an end to his suffering, freedom from suffering. These two components, they encapsulate insight and compassion. That they're really two sides of the same coin. They're really not separate at all. They're both about letting go. And that if we can see and understand both of these two sides of the coin, we'll also understand the other better. So if we understand insight practice, we'll understand Brahma Vihara practice better. And if we understand Brahma Vihara practice, we'll understand insight practice better. Why? Because they're both letting go. They're both practices, they're both ways of letting go through clearly understanding what brings suffering and what brings the end of suffering. So, as MIDL meditators, we are insight practitioners, but we're also Kusala practitioners. We also are Brahma Vihara practitioners because they're not separate. We are practicing both at the same time, whether or not maybe we're emphasizing more insight. But even if we're emphasizing more insight, we are practicing Kusala. We are practicing the Brahma Viharas even if we don't realize it at the time. So I kind of wanted to bring this up to notice that this is not like an either or, right? It's a both. It's an and. And depending on maybe what we are feeling called to in our sit, or maybe what we feel like our heart needs, we can kind of lean in a direction that might be a little bit more wisdom based or a little bit more heart based, right? We can spend time in our retreat focusing on metta, and we can have confidence that it will lead to insight through clearly understanding. How does metta and how do these kusala states, through clear understanding, through clear comprehension, how do they actually lead to happiness, to peace, to freedom? And similarly, if we're leaning more in the wisdom direction with our practice and we're looking at the hindrances and we're practicing samatha with our mindfulness of breathing, and when these hindrances come up, right, when I relinquish and let go of feeding that hindrance, is that not an act of kindness to let go of perpetuating my own suffering? Right? The ceasing of suffering is kindness, is compassion. Understanding suffering is the practice of compassion for ourselves and for other people. So they really are one and the same, but maybe we could say that they're two sides of the same coin, or we're just looking at it from slightly different angles. And you might notice that you, as a practitioner, you might have an inclination, or you might have a propensity, being like, I really feel like this heart calling, this wish to really engage in this way, right? Or I really feel this I want to engage with wisdom, right? So seeing your strength, seeing where you're pulling, but then yoking them together, we can uh, integrate them. And I do believe that's how the Buddha taught. That's how the Buddha taught the Dhamma, because he taught out of compassion, but he taught insight out of compassion. So for this guided meditation, what I'd like us to do is we will engage in a mindfulness of breathing practice. So we'll allow our mind to settle. We'll establish mindfulness in the forefront of our body, as Stephen mentioned earlier this morning or yesterday for Australia. And we are, as we're allowing our mind to settle, we bring insight to the hindrances that arise, to the restlessness, to the um, to the aversion to the pain in our body. Right? We notice these things and we include them. This is another aspect of the Brahma Viharas and of this open, loving heart. It includes what's here. It doesn't exclude, it includes. So this boundless capacity to include what's present in our experience. So with these hindrances are welcome. They are welcome to be here because they are here. They're already showing up. So that's why we recognize them. We see them clearly with our insight and with our compassion. And so as in this practice, all we're going to do, the only real difference for this practice today is I'd like us to notice how when we apply the Gauss formula, when we observe the anatta nature of these hindrances, when we soften our participation in them, when we feel our regrounding in our body and how nice it is to let go of battling or struggling with restlessness, when we notice it feels better to let those thoughts be than struggle with them. Notice also how this letting go and this relinquishing is kind. It is wholesome. It there's a connection with our heart when we let go of feeding these hindrances. It is a soothing of our heart and an extinguishing of this fire of suffering, of this battle. As we let go or we let be, there is a gentleness, a warmth perhaps that you can feel behind your eyes, in your smile, in your hands, or in your heart center. And it might be really, really soft or really subtle at first. But let's see if we can notice with our insight that this is actually a movement not just towards nibbana, which it is a movement towards nibbana. It is also a movement towards uh, deep love, like deep loving kindness, deep caring for ourself and our well-being. And that recognition might actually help the practice feel a little bit more nourishing, or you might notice that the contentment feels a little bit more accessible, or a little bit, maybe it kind of adds a little, that recognition. We're not even really adding anything. We're just recognizing with our clear seeing that this movement is kind. And then we can simultaneously enjoy that kindness and that with that letting go. And it might help build that momentum through that recognition. Similarly, when, and I say when, not if, because it probably will happen, but when we find ourselves, oh, I got distracted again, or I've just been following that that daydream or that problem my mind's been chewing on again. I noticed it was happened on its own, or mindfulness returned on its own. See if we can also recognize how this anatta quality that we recognize that the mind is happening on its own, how it allows us to be kind to ourselves when we recognize that this is just what the mind was doing. It's not our fault. We don't have to blame ourselves. And in fact, this seeing this anatta quality allows us to be even more gentle and kind to ourselves because um, that's that's the way that it was appearing. That's the way these hindrances function. It's not our fault. We can be kind and gentle to our own mind. And in this process, we can develop insight and kindness in a way that we start to befriend our mind. We start to uh, understand, we start to recognize that understanding our mind also means being a friend to our mind. That we don't have to push ourselves around or bully ourselves. We don't have to punish ourselves. We don't have to force ourselves or none of this. Like, I mean, it's not, it's if we find ourselves doing that, that's also something to recognize. If that arises, that too is just a force of habit. So we can be kind to ourselves if we see that habit arising. So you can start to see how whatever hindrance is present, as we soften and relax our participation in it, that softening and letting go, that softening and smiling is the same movement of kusala. It's the same movement of uh, loving kindness and gentleness and our heart opening to our experience. Okay, so um, hopefully that's an invitation that you're that is clear and also accessible and hopefully enjoyable too. So with that, let's go ahead and find a comfortable meditation seat. You can also lie down. You can also stand up, being really kind to our body on this retreat, finding a finding a position that you can rest for a little while with alertness. If you'd like, you can take a moment to look around your room, around the room that you're in, just recognizing that there is safety here. There are four walls protecting us from the outside, the roof over our head. Perhaps you've created conditions of quiet and non-interruption. And even this is another recognition of kindness. The kindness of showing up to this retreat for yourself, creating this environment for yourself. And how wonderful, how genuinely really kind that is. Allowing, giving ourselves permission to let go of our defenses, knowing we are safe, letting go of the outside world. And so perhaps your eyes begin to close. And then with this sense of friendliness, opening to our experience. You may notice many things all at once. You may notice sounds coming and going. You may notice your thoughts coming and going. You may feel the body sitting here. And as we begin to notice the body, perhaps one of the first things we notice is tightness or pain. maybe heaviness or sleepiness. But if you're like me, sometimes I notice the things I don't like first. So we can, with kindness, attend to these tight or painful areas of our body. Perhaps relaxing these areas with a few slow, deep breaths. Breathing in through our stomach, then through our chest. Breathing out through our stomach and our chest. Giving these tight areas permission to relax. We can link the out breath with this feeling of relaxation in our body to help carry the body to deeper rest. Feeling the muscles around our eyes soften in their sockets, our temples relaxing, our jaw unclenching. Feeling our shoulders slide down our back. And noticing if it feels nice to relax. Noticing any pleasant feelings of our body softening. Giving our heart mind permission to enjoy this feeling and momentum of relaxation. If there's still tight areas or areas that are in pain, we can be gentle with those areas by softening our relationship to them, allowing them to be as they are, understanding our body is doing its best that it can. Putting down and relinquishing struggling with any part of our body. Noticing that this softening is a way of being kind. And so perhaps now we can notice a thread of kindness and connection with our body, grounding us into the present moment. It's okay if the mind, if our attention is still jumping around, if there are still many thoughts coming and going. But now we can feel that there is an anchor, the anchor of kindness and mindfulness of the body in the background. And bringing our clear comprehension to our experience without controlling our mind, we can start to notice that allowing our attention to rest into our body is slightly more enjoyable than following the busyness of our thoughts. The feeling of our whole body just sitting here is more stable. There's more ease that's accessible through just resting within it. And out of kindness for ourselves, we can actually let our attention follow the greater happiness of resting within the body. letting ourself enjoy resting in the body. Perhaps a smile begins to pull at the corners of our mouth, or sparkle behind our eyes. Or maybe this growing ease of resting in our body feels like a gentle warmth in our heart center. Giving our heart permission again and again to let go, to put down our burdens, and to rest in the body. What kindness! If we begin to notice our breath from within our body, we can allow our attention to unify around that experience. With this kindness and contentment in the background, it stills and allows our attention to rest in the foreground. choosing to let go of anything that's not our object, not out of force, but out of kindness and clear understanding that this is the way the mind can learn to let go. Gradually beginning to relax your attention, coming back to the whole body just sitting here. And just taking a moment to feel the resonance of the kusala in your heart, mind, and in the body. Appreciating this training and the power of letting go with kindness. And then you can begin to open to the sounds in the room, inviting movement back into the body. When you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. And we can conclude with the chanting for today. I'm going to put in the chat the recording that Stephen and I did last retreat. So if you'd like to play the song on your own, you can do that with that link there. And then the PDF of the words, we will chant it in Pali, but and the lyrics are on page 1. And I'll share my screen with that. And then the translation's on page 2. So that can be nice to know the words of what the chant means. So let me share my screen, share sound. And maybe can someone give me a thumbs up if you can hear it if you can see the screen okay? Okay, thank you. And then I'll go ahead and hit play and we can sing, or you can hum along too, or you can just listen. And maybe, can I get a thumbs up if you can hear it too? That'd be great. Okay, let me play this. Himaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Padam Pujami Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Dhammang Pujami Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Sanghang Pujami Ahang Awero Homi Abhya Pajo Homi Anigo Homi Sukiyatanang Pariharami Mama Mata Pitu Acharya Cha Nyati Maita Cha Sabrahmacharinocha Awera Hontu Abhya Paja Hontu Aniga Hontu Sukiyatanang Pariharantu Imasming Arame Sabe Yogino
Awera hontu, abya paja hontu, aniga hontu, sukiyatanang pariharantu, amakam haraka dewata. Imasming ahare, imasming awase, imasming arame, araka dewata, awera hontu, abya paja hontu. Aniga hontu, sukiyatanam pariharantu. Sabe sata, sabe pana, sabe buddha, sabe pugala. Sabe atababa pariyapanya, Saba itio, Sabe purisa, Sabe iti purisa, Sabe anita purisa, Sabe arya, Sabe Anariya, Sabe Dewa, Sabe Manusa, Sabe Winipatika, Awera Hontu, Abya Paja Hontu, Aniga Hontu, Sukiyatanam pariharantu, dukkha muchantu, yata lada sampatito, mavikachantu, kamasaka. Idang no punya bagang, Saba satanang pajema. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you so much, everyone. So at the end of the chant, it dedicates our merit. It dedicates all this cultivation of wholesomeness for the benefit of all living beings. And I encourage you to read the translation because it's a practice unto itself. This giving away of the the positive or the momentum of kusala that we've cultivated. We're dedicating it for beings seen and unseen, beings near and far, beings awake and still awakening. So it includes every living being. So um, thank you so much for your practice. Um, and wishing you well and enjoying the rest of your practice for today or this evening. Thank you again, everyone.